Howdy, thanks for stopping in and checking out Roadmap Tracker. My name is Chris Bollitter. I am the freelancer and founder behind Roadmap Tracker. I wanted to start by really quickly introducing you to Roadmap Tracker, creating a new workspace, and starting your first roadmap, really introducing the core fundamentals behind this simple linear task list that really gives you the ability to easily report to clients and stakeholders, because I know myself as a freelancer, I struggled with that and constantly having everyone on the same page and a single source of truth for all of our assets and resources. So that's why I created Roadmap Tracker. Let's take a look here and go ahead and get started by creating our first workspace. We can name our workspace anything we want, but in this case, we're going to go ahead and get started with an example workspace. Spelling's important. Now at this point, it's a three-step process. Step number 2, you can invite any team members that you'd like to get started populating new roadmaps or populating your workspace. But for this step, I'll go ahead and get started. We're going to assume it's just myself as a freelancer. Now, step number 3, we can go ahead and get started with our very first roadmap. If we'd like to go ahead and get started with any journey that we're starting, I know myself, I do a lot of websites and a lot of brand identity systems. So this would be something where I'm really trying to articulate all of the key milestones and phases that the clients and myself are going to be responsible for. So just like the Domino's pizza tracker, we're on the same page at any given point. But we're going to go ahead and use a website example for this. And we're going to go ahead and start configuring our roadmap. Now diving in here, I'm going to go ahead and suppress the tour. You guys will get the personalized approach here with the video. But I built Roadmap Tracker to be a simple single source of truth, consolidating our roadmap resources, the team, and again, we've got our contact card so you can easily get in contact with me. If we go ahead and populate our profile, we can personalize it a bit more with a personalized profile image, customize your name and display name, your email address, along with your phone number so that the team and client can get in contact with you via the channels you prefer. Roadmap Tracker was built to be a supplemental tool. Now, I didn't want to create anything that was going to compete with other project management systems or other best practices that you've already employed. I myself use email and a lot of other systems depending on the agency or project that I'm working on and their preferred venue. But there's always a need for constant reporting. And that's where Roadmap Tracker fills the gap. So diving in here again, having all your resources in one place is one of my favorite features. I know from a website example, I'm going to be sharing Figma mockups very frequently. So on our free tier, we've got the ability to share your URL. If you'd like to upgrade and update files as well, upload files, you can do that on our pro tier with a generous amount of file storage available as well. But for this, we're going to go ahead and say it's a Figma mockup example that I'm going to be sending over to the client here shortly. Now, again, we have the option if we're creating templates or something that our workspace is going to be using very frequently, we can add that resource to our workspace as well. Now, the difference between adding it to your workspace and to your actual roadmap is that it is unique to the actual entire workspace or specifically for the roadmap. Now, this Figma mockup is going to be specifically for this client for this specific project. So we're going to go ahead and leave it as a roadmap specific resource. Now you'll see that pops up here and that gives us the ability to quickly access the link that we've chosen. Now we're jumping straight over to Figma so we can hop in immediately and dive into any specific Figma link, any specific project that we're working on. Now in this case, we're going to go ahead and start with the phases. I don't know about yourself, but I like getting paid. So I'm going to start with the formalities. And including some of those formalities, we've got design briefs, we've got the intake process, intake interviews, all of those kind of things can happen in phase 1 so that we can allocate the time allotted for them. One of our basic features, the standard task, gives you the ability to just have an informational task that you'd like to create. You've got our milestone, which has the ability to wave a flag, essentially notifying anyone via email when a task is completed. And then finally, my favorite task type, the external link for, again, these formalities specifically. I don't know about yourself, but I use external sources like QuickBooks and Signwell that provide very easy to use hot links for all of those integrations, as opposed to even integrating them or sending them. Most of that's going to happen via email most of the time, but I'd like to consolidate that into a single place. So I'm going to send that QuickBooks invoice link specifically for this project and say, complete the deposit. Because again, we want to get paid. So from the moment there, we're going ahead and populate another task. Let's say task number 2, complete. Spelling is important, kids. Now we're going to complete the design brief. We want that to be an external link as well. So this is going to be, I use Jotform for my external source, so I can use that. A lot of other people use Typeform or other intake briefs. Again, having the ability to aggregate all this content into a single place. So having them be able to complete those and make sure that they know where they need to take that action. Now we're going to have an estimated end date here. Let's go far into the future, because I don't know when you're watching this video, and I want to make sure I'm giving you a future date here. Hopefully I update this video before June 2024. We've got some new updates coming, so I'm excited to keep this updated. But we've got our date. We can add a date range if we'd like as well, but a single date which should be sufficient. Now let's go ahead and take a look at the meat and potatoes of this system. Let's go ahead and say the deposit. We've already gotten paid. By default, the free tier, all tasks are divided evenly between the roadmap total. So if you have 100 tasks on your roadmap, each task would be worth 1%. Now on our pro tier, we've got some weighted phase capabilities that give you the ability to, or weighted phase features to give you the ability to manage those based on proportions of the phases. I know some phases, for example, as a freelance web designer, some phases take a little bit longer than others. And some phases are a little bit shorter, but they may have more tasks inside. So we want to weight those proportionally. We also have time tracking and personalized branding on our pro tier that give you a little bit more of those pro features that you and your clients are going to look for. But for this status, we're going to go ahead and say it's 50% complete. Let's go ahead and take a look at some of the meat and potatoes behind Roadmap Tracker, which is the public roadmap page. This is the page that you'd be sharing specifically with your clients. By default, this works just like Google Docs. I know I originally was going to build this as a static infrastructure, but by default, you have all of your roadmaps restricted, because any of the information that you add to your resources or to your tasks could be sensitive. It could be under NDA. You don't want to share that with the public. But by default, you have the ability to easily share that with your clients and make sure that they have access. Clients don't need to create an account. That's one of the core features of Roadmap Tracker. All they need is their email address to log in. They're going to get a magic link when they attempt to log in, and they're going to have access to everything that you send them, and then they'll be able to collaborate with you. They don't need to populate their profile, but they can if they want to. At this point, again, you've got the ability to use the fully restricted roadmap, only sharing it with client and team members, a public preview, which will only show you the preview of the roadmap, the latest activity, the next milestone, and the estimated delivery, along with the status of the project. None of those resources or team contact cards are going to be visible. And then finally, you've got the fully public roadmap, showing everything fully public. If you don't have anything that you need to keep private, you can make sure that that's very easy to share. Enter the client's email, and then again, whether they are a client or a team member, that gives them a little bit of more sensitivity and access to your workspace. So the actual system here, again, really just a simple task list, but you can see here it's screaming loud, take action. Who is that for? If we would assign that to the client when we invite them to the roadmap, they'd know that they have to take action on that design brief, and they'd have the ability to quickly pop over to QuickBooks or to Jotform to easily take care of that action. Now, outside of that, we've got some really simple workspace features giving you the ability to easily manage all of your workspace resources in the same fashion as your roadmap. You can manage that by different custom groups, so you can really manage them by different types of project or however you'd like to categorize them. The roadmap status, which again, if you move these between the two, will change the status of the project. So if at any given point you're tracking different project statuses and you need to follow up, makes it easier to know where those projects stand. Now, real quickly, I wanted to walk you through how I use Roadmap Tracker as a pro user and as a freelancer myself. Now, making this really simple is really the core of Roadmap Tracker. So I have quite a few tasks going on at any given point, but one of my most frequent annoyances is with Google Docs, workspace resources, really having the information architecture template available for myself and my team, being able to quickly link over and create a new information architecture document. Now, all of your projects really get all of the treatment that you're looking for between the status and the groups that we discussed, but we've also got the ability to really feature specific projects that you've got. So a quick example here would be the website deployment. Dedicated features included on the new Pro tier include templates, giving you the ability to use something that you use very frequently like websites and iterate on that process so that you can constantly optimize what your clients are seeing and how your process is going. So that's a little bit about Roadmap Tracker, probably a little bit more exhaustive than I intended for the quick introduction, but it gets you everything that you need to get started. If you have any questions or thoughts, I'd love to hear them. Thank you so much for considering Roadmap Tracker and for taking the time. Have a great one.